bienvenido, yo te voy a esperar. En mi cama y lo voy a celebrar.
Baby, a ti no me pongo y siempre te lo pongo. Y si tú me tiras, vamos a nadar en el hondo.
Si por mí te lo pongo. De septiembre hasta agosto. A mis 5 lo que digan tu amiga, ya yo me enteré.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the El Nino podcast. I'm Eladio Nino, and this is Real Everyday People. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, everybody that's watching, everybody that's sharing and subscribing. I want to please ask all my family and my friends, please take the time to share this with people. You know, I'm trying to get somewhere, so please support my mission. Also, before I start the show, I want to send some love to my Uncle Ruben had passed away last week, so I want to send my prayers up. For my family, that's going to have some healing, and, we're going to be at his wake tomorrow. So, much love to my Uncle Ruben Romero. He's the first uncle I've lost on my father's side. My family, the Romero family come from Corktown neighborhood over on Church Street. They, came up with the old Stilettos and the Bagley Boys and all that. So, anybody that knows, my uncle knows that, we come from, good stock and good family. Also, I wanted to thank Evelina, for having us and coming to Lit Entertainment Studios and doing a great interview with us and a great performance. We appreciate you. And also to Enrique Garcia with his Word on the Street podcast. Thank you for having me and Jose as guests. It was a great experience. I appreciate the love and support. Today I've got a here who was a friend who turned into a brother from another mother. And he's got a great story of turning trial into triumph. And this brother is very much accomplished. He is a man of many titles. And, I'm honored to be able to sit here with this brother and have him share his story with you guys. This is my brother, Mario Bueno.
Pleasure to be here.
My man.
Humbled to be here.
Yup, no doubt about it, man. So tell us a little bit about, where you were born, where you're from.
So originally I was born in Pontiac, Michigan. To a mother that migrated from Cuba at age 17 and to a father who came from Ecuador. Lived a little bit in Mexico for a few years.
What part of Mexico?
At Acapulco.
Acapulco?
Yeah, my father had got transferred there. Came back, lived back in Pontiac. And right around age 9 years old, moved to Miami for a few years. Came back again to Pontiac. And at 16, unfortunately, that's when I committed my crime and began to know the Michigan Department of Corrections from 16 to 36, which, a lot of people ask, where you from? And, I was challenged at 36 when I came home with really understanding where I was from, because all I knew was the Department of Corrections. But, when I came home in 2014, I looked at Detroit as ground zero. And when I say ground zero, I'm referring to the plight, the fight, and the battle with transforming the criminal justice system. Right. So now I think I can safely say and comfortably say that Detroit is my home. That I think that's where I'm from.
And I think I can safely agree with you. When I came home, Mario Bueno was the man in Southwest Detroit, boy. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knew who Mario Bueno was, and everybody had something good to say. You have contributed to the community. You took care of business, and I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Because since we were both on the inside together, we were pillars in there, and we come out here and we still stand the tallest pillars in our community, man.
I remember one incident. As a matter of fact, I was at a get together with some youngsters, and I was introduced to somebody, and they said, "Yeah, you know Eladio Nino?" I was like, "Yeah, that's a brother of mine. You had just sent me an email through JPay."
Okay.
And I recall we used to build through JPay before you came home.
Yup, definitely.
And I was very excited to see and witness your potential unravel. Right, so that's why I am excited to be here, and I didn't think twice about accepting the offer. And it was one of your young cousins that I had been actually breathing on, and I hopefully planting some good seeds. It all comes full circle, And I appreciate you saying I came home and, put in work and did this and did that. But I think, as the law of physics says, an object in motion stays in motion. And an object at rest stays at rest. And so what you witness and what you're witnessing, for example, with men such as yourself, is that object in motion. Like we were in motion before we came home. You know, and I think you know, our experience together and collectively being pulled into the organization that transformed influential men on the Jackson Yard, and then we were given the task and the challenge to then teach and try to transform the rest of the population. We were also, for example, I was reminiscing recently about how we were called from, you know, the administration called us in. It was, I think, Jose Rivera, yourself, and myself, and we were asked to put together a organization that's recognized by the administration for Latinos.
Yes.
Because summer was quickly approaching, and we had about 100 Latinos on the prison yard.
Yes.
And the warden was concerned about, you know, when you have 100 Latinos on a prison yard that are bored, it becomes kind of volatile.
Yes, absolutely.
So I was reminiscing about that fact that, you know, I was blessed to have that experience with you two, and then, you know, we were able to, for example, for Cinco de Mayo, put together a good entertainment for the population.
That's when
Michael Reyes came in,
yeah,
right?
Michael Reyes.
And then he came in a second time for free, and then the third time he came in was because you, being the head of that organization, Lasso, invited me and Rick Speck as a keynote speaker 9 months after I was paroled. I was on parole. Amazing. I was on parole coming into the very prison that released me. Being a keynote speaker for my brother, who's now the head of this organization that we were called to create several years prior. And so I think the takeaway that I want to highlight from that is that, sure enough, there's certain seeds that you'll sow from which you'll eat off that bitter fruit for the rest of your life. For example, me taking Samuel's life, right? So either I walk into a room and either that door is slammed in my face. For example, I can't find a place to stay because a felon can't sign an apartment lease, or I can't work for Uber. Or the inverse, right? The other side of the spectrum is you walk into a room and now you're a zoo, you're the zoo animal, right? Like tell your story, Eladio. My point is that the major takeaway is that so too you can plant good seeds. And so while I cannot ever find equity, balance, or make up for what I did at age 16. I have, by the grace and glory of God, being transformed, I think, hugely influential by my parents, right? Because, you know, the prison was the proverbial stick that I needed. You know, I was that 16-year-old stick-up kid that was angry at the world, right? But also I think the danger in sending youth to confinement is that most of them do not have that parental love that comes also with resources. For example, I had a mother that could come and visit me every week if I was allowed. I had a father that could provide for my education. So my point is that I also had that proverbial carrot, right? So it's not that I'm so much better than anyone else or you. We had the nurturing coupled with the harshness of prison, and I can't help but say that I did need every day of that 20 years, you know, and I was able to begin to start sowing good seeds that now I see the fruit thereof manifesting and coming to fruition. And so,
I remember when that came to fruition. We were at JCS, and you were on your way out the door, and you were doing exercising and stretching, and I was doing my bear crawls in the gym, and I remember asking you like, brother, are you ready? You know what I'm saying? Are you anxious? And you were so humble and so mindful about your situation, and you was like, you know, I deserve everything that I got, every moment, every minute, every day. You know what I'm saying? Serves its purpose, you know, because every day you wake up as a student, as before we woke up as convicts and lived as prisoners, but then we woke up with the conscious mind. We looked at our situation as if we were in school, transformed our mentality into students, and became teachers.
You know, the fact that you brought that up, I remember that day. because my anxiety level was so high that I was doing 3-a-days. I was working out. I was doing like the Floyd Mayweather, right? I was doing 3-a-days. And so, you know, and I remember telling you, you said, are you ready yet? And I still had probably like, you know, like 16 days or something like that. I said, no. And you looked at me crazy. And I said, I still got 16 days left. And I'm going to need every single day to prepare.
Yeah.
And I remember one day sitting in the cube, you know, and the deputy warden would put all youngsters around us, you know, like talking about 17, 18, 19-year-old prisoners that, you know,
Yeah.
for the lack of a better term, they should be called Can't Get Right. Remember from
Yeah.
the movie Life, right? Can't Get Right. But we were, you know, you become like the ones you're around the most. And so we were blessed with the experience of being able to be a light unto the darkness for these men. And so I remember the youngsters watching me because I was called off the prison yard, right? I was called. So you're looking at someone who was kicked out of 9 of the 16 institutions, you know, deemed incorrigible, 3-year solitary confinement before age 21. And so you're looking at somebody who was transformed, but I lost all my good time. So when I was transformed and I began to teach and I stopped trying to knock the door down, right? And instead I became greater than the space that held me, right? Like when you add and multiply and you add so much value, the very space cannot continue anymore. So I was called off the prison yard and I was told, I remember Rick and Cam were sitting in the counselor's office and the counselor said, do you waive your 30-day notice? The parole board wants to see you in 13 days. And I remember looking at Rick and Cam and they said, you're going home, bro. And I told the counselor, I said, get the hell out. Right? So sure enough, I seen the parole board in 13 days. Now mind you, you know, it takes 6 months to prepare your file to see the parole board. So I didn't even have a recommendation letter. Right? And so now I'm being called to answer for what a 16-year-old did. You know, so with that being said, obviously the pro interview went extremely well. I think that I've accepted responsibility for falling so short, right? To sin just simply means to fall short. And so I was able to, because of my good behavior, get pushed out of prison and so quickly that I think it was traumatic. So I remember the youngsters in the cube watching me during these several weeks. And I found myself being concerned. And so I remember one of the youngsters who came out and became one of the strongest men in the nation, Ryan Belcher, phenomenal dude. It's a true story in the first book that I wrote, the memoir, the night before, he's a real big, huge white guy. And he was having some challenges in the housing unit and I had him moved as my bunkie. I had the influence and the grace to be able to do that. And so he's a big guy, right? And I remember, you know, he's climbing on the top bunk. I'm like, hey, yo, hey, come in, don't be shaking that bunk after 9 o'clock, dog. And I'm like, I hope he doesn't, you know, boss up on me. I gotta act up. You 3 times. All right, Mario, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, the night before I'm getting released, he calls me inside the day room, and this mountain of a man, young man, right, is crying and saying, I know I want you to go home, but I want you to know that you're the most positive man. He said, you and Rick, you're the most positive man that I ever had in my life. Now, mind you, this kid had a football scholarship to play college football and ended up catching 280-something robberies with his own father.
Wow.
Had fell into alcoholism. So we're talking about a kid who lacked the fundamental positive male role model, right? And so he picks me up off my feet crying. The night before I went home, and I give you my word, as I walked back down that hallway back to my cube, it was then that I realized this was all for an intended purpose. Literally the day before I'm being released,
That's that awakening.
It hit me that
You got a mission.
it all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
It all makes
For
sense.
sure.
So it was that man that asked me, that young man asked me, hey Mark, in front of the youngsters, I remember they were getting ready for lunch. After you got 20 years and you don't go to chow anymore, he says, are you scared to go home, Mario? In front of all the youngsters. And I sat there and I thought about you. Just like when you asked me in the gym, are you ready? And I looked at him Without even looking at him, I was looking at TV. I said, "No, I ain't scared to go home." I said, "I'm scared to lose what I found." Contentment.
Wow, that's dope. That's powerful,
bro. I had a trepidation that I was going to lose that state of to where I could tell you, you could just put me in solitary, man. I don't even care. I got my books. I do my workout. It doesn't matter to me. So I was in trepidation mode of being attached to things that aren't permanent. And that's what leads to suffering. Being attached to anything that ain't permanent.
I learned that while I was in segregation for a couple months, got caught with a knife. I was at Earth seeking for something, you know what I'm saying, outside of my environment. Found a Buddhist book.
Yeah.
It talks about how we were the #1 cause of our own grief through attachment.
The four
being
noble
attached
truths.
to everything. You attach your clothes, your jewelry, people, things, emotions, thoughts, ideas, you know, objects, all that type of stuff.
It's funny you said that because that's how I actually got out of Ojibwe. I got into Buddha diet. So I studied 3 Buddha books. Got the Kenros.
Oh man! And then, but the thing about it is, you do it shooting a movie and then actually learn something out of it.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So tell me, what are a couple of your favorite books that you read over the years while you were in prison?
So I think the one that really shifted my paradigm in my belief system and how I view myself and the world around me was the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. So when I was about 20, I want to say I just turned 21. I was 21. I did about a year in solitary up in Steamboat at Earth. My mother sends me the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. So I started reading about a man who was working in coal mines for like 15 hours a day to pay for himself to go through law school. He could only afford maybe 1 meal a day, so he could free his people. And it was at that moment I realized, man, I'm a piece of, like I'm sitting here angry at the world, right? For woe is me, looking out the window instead of in the mirror for exactly the root cause of where I am. And it was because of who I was, right? And so I realized at that moment that, I'm a robber, stick-up kid killer who's angry at the world, who has had an opportunity to educate himself because my father offered that opportunity when I was about 18. First 2 years of my incarceration, I quit. I quit those books. I couldn't see a 22-year sentence. And so it was at that moment, after reading that book and reading about his life, that I realized that my only duty from now until my release is to become more so I can give more.
Absolutely.
Right?
And
to become more to give more.
I love that. I pray and I always ask God for more because I said the more that I have, the more I have to give. You know what I'm saying? I don't ask for more just to obtain more to have for myself, but I pray for the abundance because there's an abundance of people that need help.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Do you remember when we were at JCS, the rec director's name?
Yeah, Dreyer.
Mr. Dreyer, the greatest teacher of all, huh? I mean,
you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember.
You remember that when I told him.
And when you,
we were standing next to each other.
Yes, we were in the same line.
I remember that. Yeah, he was always.
You even thanked him and everything, and he was a stickler, and he had the answer for everything.
He was a corrupt official in terms of trying to. He lied on Rick. I mean, he would lie on prisoners, to entrap them, try to get them locked up. But so he gave me a really hard time. And the truth be told, we live in a world of polarities. And what that means is, for example, for North Pole to exist, so must South Pole. Right? Right? So for those, for you to have people that love you, so too must you have people hate you.
Yeah.
And so we had that gift about us at Jackson Prison, and half the staff loved us and the other half hated us. And so Mr. Dreyer was in the group that hated us. And so I remember the last time that it was my boss, my direct supervisor, was good friends with Dreyer. And that's what really prevented Dreyer from ever crossing the line with me. However, my boss, Chad Guthrie, my relationship with Chad Guthrie, I think, served as
Mr. Guthrie, I remember.
A shifting point in my development in relation to us versus them. We really developed a good friendship. It was him that recommended I get my good time back. but it was also him that led me down certain epiphanies. For example, he was the one that explained to me dryer is my greatest teacher. And so when I realized it, like if you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes, right?
Absolutely.
So instead, I remember you were next to me and he came and he says, he got in my face and he says, well, are you angry? And I was very calm. I said, absolutely not, sir. I said, I'm thankful for you. I said, you're the greatest. I said, you're the greatest teacher I've ever had in my life. He goes, teacher, what do you mean? I said, you, sir, teach me how to deal with unreasonable people.
Absolutely.
He was never unreasonable again.
And it's crazy because you said somebody had planted that seed in you where you had that new perspective of it, and then you shared it with me and then changed my perspective of it.
I forgot you were even there.
And I started to feel more like a giant because now I had more awareness, I had more restraint, I had more understanding, I had more patience, you know what I'm saying? And I really took pride in that because, you know, he ran me through a test. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I did. Yeah, I did. I could not believe. And I mean, he came at me from every different angle of talking about Mexican people, talking about this, that, and the other. Yeah. I maintained my composure. I spoke to him like a gentleman the whole time. Yeah. And he wanted to see what I was made of, bro. And I showed him that I was built to last, my dog. You did. And ever since that day, bro, he never said no to me about anything, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I totally forgot about that. Memories, man. It's you know, it's mind-boggling to think that, you know, I used to sit there and email you and I knew you were going to do great things and that's what life's about. It's process. It's process and one thing that I learned going through that 20-year prison sentence, that as long as you don't quit, you win. Yeah. As long as you don't quit, you win.
Mario, a lot of people can't really fathom what it's like to go into an environment like that at the age of 16, you know what I mean? Like, you know, can you share that experience?
Absolutely. I was blessed and fortunate to actually write a published thesis on it at Wayne State when I got my bachelor's in accounting. But, you know, to what we've learned through research and empirical data, obviously, is that placing a youth that has yet to physiologically mature, right? Changes the very chemical brain makeup and how we process stress, how we respond to stress physiologically, and then you throw in the social makeup. This is an environment that resolves all challenges, right? With aggression and violence.
Yes. So
when you're placed in an environment that is basically you're on guard, right? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you start that at a young age. It not only changes how your brain processes information and how it responds chemically, but it also shapes and frames how you respond socially, right? How you evolve socially, or should I say devolve, because we're talking about an environment that is extremely primitive, right? So it's not really evolution per se. But when you talk about now for 10, 20, 30 years, like we're doing with unfortunately treating 15, 16, 17-year-olds as adults, now we're talking about breeding terrorists, literally. Yeah. And now we're talking about breeding terrorists. So, for example, one researcher came out recently with research saying that when a juvenile is placed into an adult prison setting, they have to raise the level of aggression and violence above that of the people around them. So much so that they have to become a conscious sociopath if they're to successfully survive, not just physically, but mentally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mentally and emotionally, successfully survive the long-term confinement with adults. They literally have to become conscious sociopaths. So what that means is basically, in layman's terms, you got to become something that you not only don't want to become, but you weren't designed to become. And so becoming that, not losing your true self in that.
Yes, because there's so many people who get lost in there, bro. How many people did we see turning into mummies, zombies, taking meds, giving up, gambling every day, finding companionship with other men,
sexual promiscuity,
you know, all these things that people try to utilize to fill that void in their lives. You know what I'm saying? To find some type of contentment, some type of comfort. I tell people all the time, like, everybody survives, but everybody doesn't survive the same. You know what I mean?
That's very true. You know, everybody survives, but not everybody, I think, successfully survives. Right?
Absolutely.
So one thing,
a lot of people are just getting by.
Right. So one thing my uncle always pointed out when he come visit me, my father has 4 brothers. My uncle Albert, he'd say, you know, and even especially at the end, he'd highlight, you never lost yourself. You know, and what I want to stress is that wasn't my doing. That wasn't my doing. I attribute that to the love and the nurturing that coincided the pain and the trauma.
For sure, yeah, no doubt about it, man. And you know that place is where boys become men. You know, people grow, they grow physically. It's bro. I met virgins in prison. I knew about 3 guys who have been in prison since they were 15, 16, and never had even been with a woman before, and already had 30, 35 years in. Imagine the trauma that you know that they have gone through, where they've even went through identity crisis. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Not even knowing
the very nature of prison under the 13th Amendment. Let's keep it real. It's slavery, right? Slavery is abolished except those brandished a felon. Let's go a little step further. What's the main factor in allowing slavery, or the concept thereof, to persist and to be successful, is to strip the very identity of the slave.
Absolutely.
Right? Prison number, blues, all the same. So especially as a young youth entering an environment that tries to strip you from your identity and break you to be dependent upon them, to only be pushed out and be called to be independent. However, to be successful in life, one must be interdependent. Interdependence meaning how I relate to others, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I just, you know, you were very studious, and while we were in there, all we were doing every day, Monday through Friday, we were in class. We were doing 2 classes a day, facilitating anger management, parenting, critical thinking, creative thinking. Are you an assertive? Are you aggressive? Are you a passive aggressive communicator? I mean, you name it. Like, we were in the trenches of things, and we were dealing with youth. We were dealing with grown men. We were dealing with long-term gang members, long-time drug dealers, long-time drug addicts, alcoholics. Like, you think, and you know, all of the above, and you know, just to see how a place that was supposed to break us down actually helped us fulfill our purpose, find ourselves. You know, we matured mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and I was so grateful, because I said, there's people that live a lifetime and never reach that point in their life of enlightenment. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's one thing that I was forever grateful for, is to be given the space and the opportunity. Like you're talking about, once upon a time in 2005 and 6, I was asked to teach a group of youngsters anger management, in which I was. I was known for loaning personal books out and teaching on the prison yard. However, they had put in my prison file an order to not allow me to teach. Wow. And this was like in 2006. And it's very interesting, but yet concerning at the same time, right? Because once again, I don't want to harp on this slavery thing, right? But teach a slave anything but to read. Fast forward, you're speaking about an administration that was led by Deputy Warden Will Riley, who was very progressive. Very progressive. I mean, he was like an uncle to us.
He was a good human being.
He empowered. Well, that's why they never made him a warden.
Man.
They never made him
so much love and respect for him.
He was one of our first board of directors for the nonprofit that we started, Lucky. But you're talking about fast forward, we were given a space to where not only could we become more, like they trained us in this, then we were able to teach, and you end up learning that what you teach, right? And so I think that being able to flourish in the midst of darkness, especially, for example, like this COVID situation, right? One has to change, once again, the way they look at something. So, for example, in a place of darkness, you could look at yourself as being buried.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? Or you can look at yourself as being planted. Both of them must endure the darkness.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
it's all about how you look at it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You can
man.
get through it, or you can grow through it.
That's a beautiful perspective, bro. Definitely, man. So, prior to getting out, like, what was your mission? You know, I mean, it's hard for us. We try to predict the future when we're in there, you know. But I think the main navigation that helped me was making my mind up, because there was a point in time as I was transitioning over the years from being bad to doing better to doing good, but still having my foot on the other side of the fence, to straddling the fence, and then, you know, feeling shame because I felt like I had caught another case in prison. I got caught with heroin. I'm sitting here like I have many people who believed in me, who believed in us, who gave us a chance and an opportunity to go against the stereotypes that we are what we are. We're always going to be criminals. We're always going to think like that. We're manipulators. We're liars and all that. And I'm sitting here teaching teaching classes, facilitating, and then going over here and selling drugs on the yard. It was a huge conflict of interest. I got caught, which I deserved it. And the reason I deserved it and I was able to embrace it is because I learned how to be a man and hold myself accountable. And that's where the main transition made me choose a side. You're either going to do right or you're going to do wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I had devoted so much of my life to doing the wrong thing because there was a once upon a time where I thought I was doing the right thing. But now that I have found myself and found the consciousness to know that I actually have the ability to change the direction of my life. Whatever I don't like, I don't have to indulge in, and those things that I do like, I can continue to cultivate about myself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so once I went through the powerful transitions, bro, like it just opened up the world to me. But the thing about it is, I started to feel restless because I had outgrown the environment, bro. I didn't have anything in common with anybody anymore. I'm not selling drugs. I'm not rotating with the homies no more. I'm not holding on to no knives. I'm not making no juice. I'm not running no stores. I'm not doing none of this. I'm not doing time anymore.
Right.
I'm doing preparations.
Right.
You know, going through the process.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head too. Like, you know, it's kind of like this. Like, before you get $1 million, like, you become $1 million. So like before you get free, like you become free. Mm-hmm. And so you had found me at a space at Jackson where I had became free. Mm-hmm. Right? I had became it before I received it. And I think in life that's what it's about. Like there's an old Native American story about a grandfather telling a grandson that within every person exists two wolves. One is evil and one is good. And at all times, those two wolves are at odds. Mm-hmm. And the grandson asked the grandfather, well, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, the one that you feed the most.
The one that you feed
and
the most.
So I look at it like this, my brother. I don't look at it as a destination to arrive to. I look at it as an everyday fight. And which wolf do I feed?
Absolutely. And you know what? Being around certain people in social circles, some people bring out the best in you, some people bring out the worst in you. And the thing about it is management. You know what I'm saying? Knowing who you are, knowing what you're made of. I taught a class called Boundaries. Boundaries are important to have with your friends, with your family, even with yourself. You know, and it teaches you how to maintain healthy relationships with people. You know, even if you have a conflict of interest or have certain different ideas, you're still able to find some common ground, build healthy boundaries that still make you, that still allow you to have a good relationship with whoever it may be.
Absolutely.
You know. So listen, we're going to go to a 2-minute intermission, and then we're going to come back, and he's got so much more to share about curriculum, about books, about accomplishments, about degrees, and all that good stuff. So please stay tuned, and we appreciate your love and support. Thank you.
Since DJ Papa Sick I'm taking over. You're in the mix with the voice of Detroit, Jose Del Valle. And we at the Real Everyday People El Nino Podcast. Let's go.
Escuchar el silencio para encontrar el camino y para qué llorar, para qué si duele una pena se olvida y para qué sufrir, para qué si duele una pena se olvida la ley.
Voice of Detroit, Jose Del Valle. And we at the Real Everyday People El Nino Podcast. Let's go. We got Mario Bueno. He's in the building.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the El Nino Podcast. I'm Eladio Nino, and this is Real Everyday People. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, supporting, sharing, and subscribing. Before we get back, I want to give a shout out to my brother Pat Bates. I want to give him a good, big happy birthday for my man. I love you, boy. You know, and I love seeing your growth, brother. You know. So we're gonna get back to my man Mario Bueno. He sharing his story from trial to triumph. And he's got so many accomplishments, and I'm just gonna go ahead and let you guys have it, because this brother is very accomplished. I'm very proud to have known this brother and to be working with this brother and having him here with us now. So tell us a little bit about these books right here, Mario, or do you got a format on what came first?
So this book was my first book that came out. Reformed, Memoir of a Juvenile Killer. Now, the original title was Broken, God's Transformative Power Through Pain and Purpose. And I was blessed to land a publishing agreement. And it's true story. This is about 3.5 years after I was home. And I sat down with the CEO of this publishing company and his team. And he says, "We love your book. It's wonderful. But we want you to write a book without God." Now, mind you, the title at the time is Broken, God's Transformative Power Through Pain and Purpose. Mm-hmm. And so...
That's a cold title, bro.
And so, true story, I told the CEO, I said, with all due respect, I said, if you want a book without God, I suggest you write it. Because if God wasn't in this book, I said, you and a couple people at this table probably would be in the trunk right now. And I'd probably be seeing how much money you got, because fundamentally, God just simply means the source in Hebrew translation, and literally, you're looking at somebody at 10, 11, 12, used to pray to this God I couldn't see, begging him to save my family from the struggles they were enduring. To stop praying at 13 and pick up the bag and hustle and become angry. By 15, becoming a stick-up kid, and by 16, harming individuals. Money became my God. And so on day 4, literally in solitary confinement, facing felony murder, armed robbery. I didn't know it at the time, but I was on suicide watch the first 3 days. Anyone charged with that kind of crime is placed on suicide watch. I didn't know it. I was in the Oakland County Jail. I was 16. They couldn't put me with adults. Mm-hmm. So they had me out there out front, and this older deputy in healthcare. Those how they're pausing to hold 10 people. I was in the small one, sleeping on the floor first 3 days. I thought this was going to be my incarceration. So boom, he's talking to me. After 3 days, on the 4th day, they put me in the back of healthcare in a single-man cell by myself. And I remember being alone for the first time with no windows, but I wasn't out in the open like I was initially. So I fell to my knees, and I still remember like it was just yesterday. I give you my word, and I'm crying profusely, and I literally look up in this cell and I tell God, had you had listened to my prayers when I was a boy, this wouldn't have happened. And I literally challenged him. I said, I challenge you. If you save me, I'll spend the rest of my life helping men like myself. Mm-hmm. So I crawled up on this plastic mat. And mind you, I was a fighter at 16. I used to travel different states. I was fighting close contact, Ishinru. This was during the very early days of like UFC type stuff. And so
Ishinru?
Yeah, Ishinru. It's a style of Gojinru and Shonru. It's close in fighting. And so I was 165, 170 shredded, right? The first 30 days in solitary, I went down to 145. I couldn't even eat, right? So on day 4, I haven't even eaten yet. I take a bite of a sandwich, I throw up, right? So I went to sleep on the mat. There's no windows. I don't know what time it is, and I wake up to a loud, and I jump and I look and I see the deputy, the door shut. I see that deputy that was talking to me, the old man for the first few days, walking away, and I look on the ground and guess what it was? It was a Bible. Mm-hmm. So I got on my knees and I literally took the Bible and I said, I take this as confirmation of our covenant, of our contract.
Okay.
Right? So Come that Saturday, some guy comes, mind you, I'm in solitary, and it was good for me. A lot of people say that it was unconscionable what they did to me, but I'm gonna tell you something. Had I gone to that juvenile department, juvenile facility in Oakland County, contact visits, being with all, I would have been broken in half. That's why I was broken in half and put back together. I needed that. So come Saturday, I get called out to the attorney booth. Now, mind you, they don't know what to do with me. This isn't a 10-man cell. This is a healthcare department. So they take me out to use the phone, take a shower every 3 days. There's no routine. Mm-hmm. So this is, you're talking about leaving South Beach, Miami at 16 and stepping into the harshest form of confinement. This was worse than IMAX level 6 because even then you got a routine to come out. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do with me, right? Yeah. So boom, they take me to the attorney booth, and that's where you meet clergy and attorney. And there's this gentleman says, your mother came to the church and asked that I come see you. And he hands me a book. And he says, I want you to read chapter 1, and I'm going to come and give you an assignment, reading assignment every week. And I'm going to come every Saturday and discuss the reading assignment. Mm-hmm. And guess what that book was?
What's that?
The book of Job.
Okay.
The book of Job. Mm-hmm. So literally I was trained for a year while I was in solitary to believe that suffering is for my good. Yes. Yep. You feel me?
Absolutely.
You feel me? So that Bible that landed on the ground, I read that 3 times in solitary. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I prayed every day, and guess what I was praying for? Not guilty, baby. Not guilty, baby. Mm-hmm. You feel me? I went through my first trial was a hung jury. Talking about a 16-year-old that was pacing back and forth for 5.5 days because the judge keeps sending the jury out as deadlocked. Imagine that kind. Always pray. And guess what? When I got that guilty verdict in the second trial, I thought my life was over. I was broken in half again because I asked God, why did you show me all this? Like I was reading Proverbs, like blessed is he who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly and finds not his rest among sinners. But I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, why am I reading this now? Why not read this before I killed Samuel? Why didn't I read this when I was 12? Why now? Right? So when I got found guilty, I became extremely angry with God.
Yeah.
And I was traumatized in the sense that I no longer ever ask God for anything ever except wisdom and understanding, right? And strength. Mm-hmm. I pray for the Our Father and I pray for the Holy Spirit to use me to expand. But guess what? I ain't start praying that again until 26. Because for the first 10 years in prison, mm-hmm. that anger is what allowed me to survive. And by 26 is when I found myself putting the towel up in the prisoner cell door, getting on my knees, and I give you my word, crying to that same guy that I hadn't spoken to for 10 years. You hear me?
Yeah.
And you know what I was telling him?
What's that?
I said, I love you, but I hate every man around me. Wow. Show me how to love you. Mm-hmm. Show me how to love you. And so I went on a journey like.
Is all this in this book that you wrote?
In this reform, this is
the
all
this whole story. Absolutely. Well, this is the first book you wrote.
This is the first book that I wrote.
Is it that detailed into
that? Absolutely. It's that detailed. I stopped the print of it, and I'm gonna tell you why. So the CEO came to visit me, and I told him that the vision that God had given me. And because he wanted I'm just like you. Like remember, I think I was your teacher at first, and then you became a teacher. But we're the byproduct of a group of men that are greater than us. Absolutely. So that's the nonprofit that I started with Rick Speck and Cameron Coles. That's who we hired. All the guys from Jackson Cooper Street and whatnot. But my point is, they wanted to do a series of reform memoirs, with these men. And I told him that's not the vision, God. Like this isn't about Mario Bueno. Mm-hmm. Right? You feel me? And so I explained to him the vision at a breakfast meeting. I was working for the city of Detroit mayor's office, and we had breakfast, and he liked it, and he ate it up. And I told him, as a matter of fact, I'm already
this book,
second edition of this.
Okay, the second edition,
but not with this title. Mind you, this is only entails the first 3 years I was home.
Okay, all right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like in this book, I was denied at University of Michigan because I was on parole. Like before COVID, I was filling in as a lecturer and I was administrative assistant for the director, former Judge Shelton, for the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice at U of M that denied me initially.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
look at the difference maker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more in here. Like, so in the second edition, so I tell him that, and he's all game. So 30 days go by, and he tells me through an email that they no longer want to back that second edition. That they're happy to do this and do that. My point is, I told them, you know, obviously we broke our dealings and our relationship. 3 months later, that CEO was fired, and 3 months after that, that company went bankrupt. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, I'm not so audacious as to say it's because of me or because of this or because of that. I'm just simply telling you the history of this book. So I stopped the print. You know, right now it's on I think on Amazon for like $50 a copy, right? I stopped the print. It's a
And what's the name of it? So people.
This is Reform, Memoir of a Juvenile Killer. Like like they're selling used editions for like $50. However, the second edition of this book, which entails 4 more years and a greater detail, is coming out January 22nd, 2022. And that book is titled A Contract with God. Right? Okay. A Contract with God. A true story of pain, prison, and purpose. And
that's deep, man.
Well, you know what I realized, Eladio? What I realized was this. In a nutshell, that's the story of my life right now. A contract with God. I keep it real, like I'm keeping it real. I came home
from the beginning. You said, if you do this for me,
if you do,
I'll do. You know, I was thinking about a story when you talked about how you always prayed for wisdom, understanding, and for strength.
After I was found guilty. After I was found guilty, you feel me?
Yeah.
My perspective on prayer means to petition, right? Like it's a legal vehicle to allow a spiritual being to occupy physical space. This is a kingdom. This ain't no democracy, bro. So when he says, I shall create man in my image, our image, our likeness, they shall have dominion of all things, he bound his own hands. Like, even God cannot intervene unless you petition him, unless you pray to him.
Yeah.
You feel me?
So, but that's something that you have to learn how to do. You know, a lot of people pray, but they recite prayers. But when you start to build a connection and a bond with the Creator on your own, that personal bond,
I'll keep it real.
And because you got to have social skills even to know how to talk to God and know how to ask for things. So I sat down with a Christian guy at Lapeer in level 4, and he was like, I was like, man, I don't know why, man, I pray all the time. He was like, are you religious? I said, I ain't religious, but I believe in God and I pray. And I said, I don't know why, man. I pray all the time, man. And my life just seems to be hard, rough, and shambles. And he was like, well, if you don't mind, what is it that you pray for? I said, well, I pray for strength. You know, I pray for strength. And he was like, well, maybe that might be the problem. He was like, so he used the example. He said, when you go to the weight pit and you want to get stronger, what do?
Put a bunch of weight on.
I said, I put a bunch of weight.
So you praying for strength,
he said, so
you're going to get trials.
For strength,
you're gonna get
God's
trials.
putting trials, obstacles, challenges. He's coming at you mentally, emotionally. So I said, wow, like I never looked at it like that. So I learned how to communicate with God. I learned how
always remember this.
How to be articulate.
Remember this. God can only bless you to the level of the amount of pain you can bear. And that goes back to that world of polarities. To equal every blessing is a burden. You wouldn't need no car insurance unless you had a car. You feel me? To equal every blessing is a burden. In addition to that, one thing I love, one of the motivational speakers that I think has definitely added value to my life is Inky Johnson. Right? Inky Johnson says that when life hits him hard, right? When life hits him hard, he's thankful. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's weird because I do have this relationship with the Creator that he's thankful it's not the first time he sat down to have a conversation with him. You feel me? So I know, and I've come to learn and understand that anytime I'm frustrated with life, the frustration is rooted in me not only perceiving the situation wrongly, right, but me approaching it wrong, right? So for example, you know, I often say that I am where I am because of who I am. So when I'm faced with challenges in life, I'll be honest with you, I'm very hesitant to really pray for anything from the Creator, except, for example, I pray for others' health, especially during serious situations. Obviously, I pray for my daughter and her protection. but really I focus on literally the Our Father, but really use me, the source. Like if I'll give you an example. This is this iPhone right here, right?
Okay.
This iPhone, right? This is in business. This is a brand. That's a logo, right?
Yeah.
Now, does this iPhone work for Mario Bueno, or does it work for that brand?
It works for the brand.
It don't give a about Mario Bueno, do
Absolutely.
it? It cares about that brand.
Yeah.
Because if the phone doesn't do what it's prescribed and what it says it is supposed to do, right, then the brand value goes down on the stock exchange, right? The brand value go down. But if I take this phone, right, and I scrub the toilet with it, I can't complain that it doesn't work, right? So often what we're doing is we're using ourselves and basically using ourselves as a toilet brush, and then complain to the world that it's not working right. You feel me? At the end of the day, this phone works exactly before they put that brand. They tested the phone. They tested that the battery worked before all that. Before they put that brand, they made sure it worked exactly how it's supposed to work, right? So too, I look at it like this: before we were even conceived, like we were already predestined to work. Okay. Like we have our brand. Like it ain't even about us, my brother. So when we talk about prayer and I hope God is, and look, it ain't even about. With all due respect, I don't mean to offend nobody, but it ain't about, oh, God loves me. No. God's about expanding His kingdom. Just like that parable where He gave 1 5 coins, 1 2 and 1 1, and the guy with the 1 buried it because the king is a very harsh king. He chopped his head off and split up with the guys that were flipping it. Like you were designed to flip. You were designed to expand, to create. He didn't give us a chair. He gave us a tree.
We were designed to produce. To
produce,
and
to work.
Reproduce.
To work.
To produce
To
and
work the
reproduce.
garden means actually in Hebrew translation to become, to manifest. To manifest who you are. So at the end of the day, like when we were talking before this podcast, you said, well, I'm just gonna, you said I'm trying. And the music was too loud for me to explain to you, no, you doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that try. Yeah. You doing.
And terminology makes that much of a difference.
My brother, because the way you talk to yourself is very important.
Yes, absolutely.
Self-talk is huge,
sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Like you asked.
And you're right. I am doing. I am doing, bro.
And that's how you have to talk to yourself.
It feels good to do.
And a lot of people always ask me, like, we talked before, you said, what's the future look like? What's the plan? I'll be honest with you. Every day I wake up, it's like I'm just swinging at that big old oak tree with a handle axe. Like just a small little axe. And so every day I'm just trying to knock that oak tree down. But guess what? It's never going to stop. It's never going to fall because it's a constant process. That you gotta grow in love. You gotta grow to the point to where you love the process over the prize.
Did you ever know Gancho?
Yeah.
Gancho did about 52 years or something. He ended up passing away in prison, man.
Yeah, I knew Gancho.
That brother, man. I believe he was from Saginaw or something, man. He taught me some lessons too. He said because he had been in prison since they used to let him box back in the day.
Yeah, they had boxing teams.
And he said, bro, I knocked a lot of guys out, and I done got my ass kicked too a couple times. He said, but I'll tell you what, no matter how much ass I kicked, there was always somebody in line wanting to kick my ass. You know what I'm saying? He said, so because he's seen how I was always moving and into things, and he was like,
trying to give you a warning.
He's like, I'm telling you right now, bro. He was like, no matter how much blood you shed, there's always going to be somebody there to call you a bitch. You know what I'm saying? He said you can't go around killing and fighting everybody.
Everyone that you call
you know,
so there's a truth. There's a truth.
And it shows how much
the
word,
fact that
how
you,
much
the
power
fact that
you
you
give
brought,
to
the
a
fact
term.
that you brought this up. The fact that you brought this up is I think is important for me to bring the story up. So, Chad Guthrie, my direct supervisor, right? So I was a clerk, and just to show you how important education is, I had earned my associate's degree. Thankful to my father, and that put me at the head of the list for the position of clerk that pays you $60 when guys that scrub toilets get like $25 a month. I get $60 a month. So let's let me qualify that. It's $60 a month, right? So the point is this though. So my initial boss was on sick leave, and so I'm training different staff now. Mind you, it's just like Shawshank Redemption, right? I do all the work on paper. I give it to them. They punch it in the computer, and they do whatever they do all day. They don't, you know what I'm saying? They don't really do. So this Chad Guthrie, I had just met him. He was gonna fill in for my boss who was sick, and so I trained him for the first few days. And you know, there was other staff members that would come around because they were friends with him. He's a very charismatic guy. He worked the front desk. I didn't know him, so that third day, you know, finally he got comfortable. His buddies left because we're in the school building. You know, the guys that worked in the other offices, and they left. And he said, "Mario, go ahead and shut that door." And then so I shut the door. And he goes, "Why don't you go ahead and empty that garbage out, bitch?" So my head snapped at him. My head snapped. I don't even know this guy. Mm-hmm. He just had me close the door. So my head snapped, and I looked at him. And I'm looking at him. And this is the first time in my life I'm faced with this situation. Mm-hmm. To where, like, literally everybody who has called me that word, I've tried to kill him. You know what I'm saying? Because in prison, that's the code of conduct. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah. you allow someone to disrespect you like that, tomorrow you're gonna probably be washing the underwear. Unfortunately, mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. But this is a staff member. Like this. So I look at him, and he sees me. He goes, "Oh, you don't like that word, bitch?" And he says, "Excuse my language, Harold." Mm-hmm. And he says it a couple more times. He goes, "Mario, yeah, I looked at your file." He goes, "Yeah, you can't kill everybody." He goes, "You know what you're gonna learn, Mario, from me?" He said, "You're gonna learn that life when you get home, because you're gonna go home soon one day." He goes, "Life is gonna treat you like a bitch." So a week and a half later, I'm the special activities clerk. You want a haircut, you want to work out, you gotta go through me, right? So I used to always get my haircut. I'm the first one because I want clean trimmers, and I'm sitting there in the barbershop chair waiting for my boss to come because he's got to open up the tools, you know, the tools for the barbers. And there's guys waiting. And he's got his back to me. He's opened the toolbox. I said, "What's up, bitch?" In front of everybody. And his head snapped and his face turned real red. And he started laughing real loud. He goes, "Now you're getting it, Bueno. Now you're getting it." That's the guy that got my good time back. Hey, check this out. Fast forward. I graduate from the University from Wayne State University. I get appointed to the Michigan House of Representatives, right? And so I get appointed there, and so I'm in Lansing, and he's working for MSI now, and he wants to have coffee. So I'm in a nice suit. I got my overcoat, and we're having coffee, and he's got his cup, and he's sipping. I was like, "Is that coffee good, bitch?" Excuse my language. The point is that he almost spit his coffee out, and his face turned pitch red. And he goes, "I almost forgot that day." I said, "I've never forgotten that day."
Yeah,
I've never forgotten that day.
Yeah,
and literally,
because it made the biggest impact.
It was huge.
Yeah, it
was huge.
It broke down a barrier.
It was huge. You talk like it was huge for me.
And how much power we give to that word.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
To the point where we think that it's okay and justified to kill you or hurt you for using
right,
a word
because
like that.
Because my ego is harmed.
So tell us about your educational journey. You know, a little bit. You said you got a degree at Wayne State. What did you get in a degree in?
Well, I was denied at University of Michigan because of pro status, and I was denied at the School of Social Work at Wayne State because of my case. And then so I got accepted in the School of Business, and I ended up getting my degree in business with a concentration in accounting. And that was a phenomenal experience, which positioned me really to be able to, I think, pursue a more social entrepreneurship type path.
Okay.
Right? Because at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, there's a reason why, you know, Jesus turned 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish to feed 5,000. Because if their stomach's growling, they're not going to listen to anything. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, if you can't provide a space for our population that are plagued and challenged, through a systemic disenfranchisement to employment, if you can't allow for a space for guys to put food on their table, it doesn't really matter what you say to them. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was Wayne State University. After that, I got recruited by Aaron Kinzel, who's the director of Youth Justice Fund, and a professor at Leo.
I just spoke to him the other day.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that's my.
We're gonna get him as a guest on the show.
Oh, he was just texting me. I should have told him I'm on your show right now.
Aaron T. Kinzel, what's up, boy?
Yeah. Aaron Kinzel. He served as a youth. is the director of a youth justice fund right now, which we're servicing juvenile lifers who are returning to the community after an extensive amount of time in prison. And so I'm finishing right now, literally, the last 2 classes of my master's program at the University of Michigan in criminology and criminal justice with a concentration in public administration. And so I get to finish that up. I take the master's essay course in the fall. I graduate in December, God willing, and then so I'm applying for doctoral programs.
That's bro.
I'm hoping to be able to get into a program, either educational leadership, how we are teaching our children, but how we should teach our children.
And you're also still active in the community because you're part of Ceasefire, right?
Well, actually, I'm also a service provider for Ceasefire. I'm blessed and humbled to be a part of that.
And that's a huge thing because you got to be involved with the community. You got to be involved with with the people who are violent, with the leaders, with the leadership.
Right. So I've been assigned to District 6, which hopefully will expand the team there, and is focused on 13 to 26-year-old gang-involved youth and young men, gun violence, reducing thereof. I think our impact has been somewhat delayed because of this COVID situation, but we're ramping back up. I'm a service provider also for my new company, Transformational Training LLC. So we're a service provider for the Ceasefire, for Youth Justice Fund, but also for the Michigan Public Health Institute. What
is that book about?
Well, this is actually just a notepad in which I give to any of the groups that I go do workshops in front of. So I do transformational training type workshops for juvenile prison reentry.
Okay.
So when I first came home, it was focused solely on the youth, right?
Okay.
And I have a youth workbook coming out.
Which is what I do for work as
well. Right, exactly. This one's Remembering Your King Within, Restoring the Male's Rite of Passage for Interpersonal Success. This is still in the editing stages. This was the first edition during the COVID situation, which helped me launch the Transformational Training LLC. And this was the first edition that landed the agreement as a service provider for Michigan Public Health Institute, which is their client is the state of Michigan for all juvenile prisoners returning. This is the second edition, which is being looked at by a couple agencies that includes employment readiness, and really just now focused more so on helping reintegration now that we have somewhat mastered reintegration.
Okay. My man, that's a lot. That's a lot of information. That's a lot of, what's that?
Where can we get that?
You can actually get this from Amazon right now. There's a actual ebook and a hard copy book. It's really good for family members. There's to be able to become familiarized with the inherent and natural challenges during the reintegration process, and that's something that I felt.
And you wrote these. You wrote
Yes.
this curriculum. You wrote these books.
Well, yeah, this book is really.
These are written by Mario Bueno.
This is aimed at literally. I'm hoping to get it in the hands of guys coming home, and women, 90 to 180 days before they come home. Right. So I put into this book everything I wish I would have known, before I came home.
So you're a father as well, right?
Ooh, hardest hood I know is fatherhood. Without a doubt, hardest hood I know. Yes, I'm fortunate to have a daughter who'll be 5 in a couple months.
What's her name?
Cecilia.
Cecilia, how you doing, mama?
Yeah, Cecilia. She's definitely my new why. I learned through becoming a parent that you definitely will always do more for another than you do for yourself.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What is one thing that you want her to learn and to be able to apply from here on out for the rest of her life? If there's one lesson,
the one lesson that I try to instill in her day in and day out is that we don't get what we want, we get what we are. And so she's very spoiled. She's very coddled. So unfortunately, when you are spoiled, you don't learn the natural inherent law of reciprocity. Like what you give, you'll get, right? And what you don't give, you won't get, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely try to instill in her every day and all day, because she does go to school, and I'm blessed to be able to take her to school every day.
That's dope. Yes,
to show love to everyone, and I always tell her she's I see strength in her.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell her, I say you're stronger than everyone else.
Wow.
So you have to show love to everybody.
So you brought an item of sentimental value to share a story about.
Yeah, actually, it's in my wallet, which I don't know where it's at. It's in my jacket. However, I can just tell you what it is.
Okay.
If you want. So it's actually a picture of my wife when she was in high school.
Okay.
And I don't want to show it, so for her own privacy's sake. But it's a picture of my wife in high school. I'm gonna tell you why. I met my wife literally in passing through my house a couple times, and she had just moved from Puerto Rico, and I was 16, she was 18, she had got a scholarship to U of M, and I looked at her, I was like, whoa, you know what I'm saying, like. And so the night that I did what I did, unfortunately in my crime, she was having dinner at my mom's house, so she was actually an alibi witness in both of my murder trials. I never really knew her.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, I come home, 4 months out, my buddy Ray takes me to Royal Oak, and we party, and guess who I run across?
Wow.
My wife. And so we connected. She would take me to yoga. She taught me a lot of different stuff, and we got engaged. And you know, it was a very rocky beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just now finding stability. And one thing I want everyone to take away, especially those who come where we come from,
Mm-hmm.
like when you get in the presence and in the company of those who have not experienced the lowness that we have,
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning that they're not complaining, they're comparing. Like, so what I mean by that is that my wife, when we go into situations and I think that she's complaining, I realize now she's comparing to what she has experienced. We are automatically comparing to the lowest state of existence in the United States. Like,
Yeah.
so our comparison, most stuff is much better than what we've experienced. So we
Yes.
really don't
Yeah.
complain.
Mm-hmm.
So what I really want guys like us and people like us to understand, and people who haven't been in prison, is that, you know, it's not necessarily that we don't want good things. I think it's just that we're satisfied with what we have and with what comes.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? So that's one thing that I think was a big challenge in relationships with people who have not been in prison. And I think that's why we gravitate towards, you know, our comfort zone and people who have experienced things that we have, because we can relate and we can identify,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't complain much.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. So, what was the other thing I was gonna ask? There's another part that I wanted you to share. Damn it, what was it? There was something else that I asked you that I wanted you to share, and I didn't want you to forget about it. Oh man, that's terrible, man.
What was the sentimental picture? I
Yeah,
keep
you
that
had-
in my wallet
you had-
because.
oh, it was about, yes. This is one of the most important things
What's that, my brother?
that was amazing is that your victim, when you came home,
Oh,
you
yeah.
sat down with his son.
So
And
yeah,
you know, that's amazing, bro.
the true story is that.
And
So,
Rick had told me, Rick Speck, what's up?
So true story. My victims, Samuel's girlfriend at the time, was on the phone when he had received the page. Long story short, she testified against me. Fast forward, I'm home. I'm in Dallas, Texas at a speaking engagement. I've been home 3 years, 3.5. And she calls me on Messenger, and I thought it was a different Tracy. I thought it was a Tracy, my buddy's girlfriend, who would reach out to me because he was getting out. He was a juvenile lifer. And so I answered the messenger quickly. I said, "What's up, Tracy?" I was eating breakfast. And she goes, hey Mario, this is Tracy. Do you remember who I am? And immediately I said, oh shit. I said, Samuel's Tracy? She goes, you remember? And I explained to her, I said, I would never forget what I did and the gravity of pain and trauma that I imparted upon so many people. And so she in that conversation, she told me, I just want you to know that I've been watching you for the past couple of years. She's a Treasury agent. She works for the Treasury Department of the state of Michigan. And so she says, I've been watching you for the past couple of years, and I want you to know that Samuel will be very proud of you.
Wow.
So boom, we connected. She ended up becoming part of the Luck team. We were trained in restorative justice practices. That's how deep it is. One of my victims was is trained as a restorative justice practitioner with her. Come to find out, she served as a substitute teacher, and she had taught Samuel's son, who was 4 at the time and now 27. And so they had a somewhat connected relationship, and he found out that she was communicating with me. So he reached out to her and chastised her significantly. She kept telling him, you just need to talk to him. Referring to me, you just need to talk to him. So I remember I'm driving home. It's the year that I was appointed by the mayor's office, Mayor Duggan. And I was driving home, and it was a Mother's Day. And I was trying to get home to prepare breakfast for my wife. And he calls me. And I pull over, and we talked for a straight hour and 50-something minutes. I'm screenshooting the phone call to explain to my wife who I'm talking to, because she's so angry that it's Mother's Day. And so in that conversation, we found a sense of peace, you know. And he told me, he says, Mario, I want you to know that my father will be proud of you, and you better never stop. So it was from that conversation that led to him wanting to meet. I wanted to be in a safe place, you know. So I was blessed to have a good relationship with the city councilwoman at large, Janae Ayers. And it just so happened to be on the day that I was appointed and I started my position that she held a meeting up in the Coleman Young building, where I met Anthony. And I sat across from him, and afterward we hugged, you know, and
that's really
we
powerful,
found a sense
bro.
of peace. And it's nothing that I've done, trust me, it's the spirit in him.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
the spirit in him, you know.
Yeah, you know, the Creator puts all the pieces together, bro. You know.
You know, but
I hope that one day I could share that experience with, you know, Michael Conda, you know, Michael Connor, who was the victim in my family. I mean, in my case, I'm sorry. And you know, he was 17 years old when he was murdered, and he had a child on the way. Wow. I believe he had a son on the way. Wow. And you know, I've always thought about what his son would turn out to be.
Well, I can tell you this.
Like, you know,
one of the biggest, you know, missions that I have is in transforming the criminal justice system is that, you know, I don't believe our community needs further separation, like further us versus them type scenarios. You know, the community doesn't need retribution. What it needs is accountability, but also a change in the offender's behavior, right? Right? Yeah. With a sense of restoration. Like, we cannot pit victim versus offender indefinitely, because what naturally and inherently occurs, right? If you never become whole, if there's not a process of restoration for the victim, and there's not a process of restoration for the offender, because let me tell you something, you know, not being able to say I'm sorry to your to really say I'm sorry, not really be able to understand that forgiveness has been found, a sense of equitableness has been found in the ones that you harmed. What it does is it leaves a brokenness in both victim and offender. And that carries on for decades on end, right? And so you have offenders who are coming home that have never really been restored. Like they've been held accountable in the sense that, yeah, they did their prison time. But to sit down and find some sort of sense of restoration and healing with the ones that you harmed the most, I think is a pivotal process of really, really healing our communities and putting a stop and at least a dent into the continued recidivism and continued violence on the community. I do what I do. I'll give you my word. It's not because I love returning citizens, but it's because I don't want any more Samuels. That's why I do what I do.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my brother from another mother. This is Mario Bueno. We've reached a point in the show where you're going to sign this wall. Thank you, brother. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. You know, I'm happy for us, brother.
Where's the mark?
So you can go ahead and pick the markers over here. I want to thank everybody who shared, who subscribed, who viewed, who heard the story. I really appreciate the love, the support. It was a privilege to have this brother Mario Bueno here, very accomplished, and we're still working together. We're making change. We're pillars of the community, and we ask that you guys follow suit. You know, we've been through trial, we've been through error, and now we are moving as bigger and better people and striving every day to be the best that we can. We found our purpose and we're on a mission. And I ask that everybody stay tuned for next Monday at 8, and stay tuned for us because we just getting started. Believe that. You guys have a safe day, safe week.